My name is Erica Frevel. In process of watching the film and seeing all the extra clips as well, I realized how similar his experience is making the film, which is categorized as psychosexual medical horror, was with my ritual experience as an occultist, even though those things don't really seem like they would be super connected. We both had visions during bodily trauma sessions. I didn't film mine, but either way, an old man or Santa Claus or Odin or Kronos or Saturn, I refer to him as Saturn, whatever you want to call this force, appears as a bearded man, an old man, sometimes with one eye, sometimes with a limp in one leg, usually the left leg, but also with Christmas carols and jingle bells, like swirling around during bloodletting experiences, which seems really strange, but if you trace that back, I know him as Lord Saturn, and I've been making sacrifices, dedicating shrines, and doing spiritual work for Saturn for probably 5 or 6 years now. So one of my first experiences that is similar to this, what caused me to lose consciousness when the vision began. I think I had heat stroke at the time. Afterwards, it was pretty obvious that working with him was going to require sacrifice, and I wasn't entirely sure what that meant or what specific sacrifice was required. So what I started doing was incorporating ritual tattooing, which again is, I wouldn't say it's medical horror, but it does get bloody, and you save all the rags and burn those. So in a way that is its own blood ritual. And burning them on the altar, not completely, but putting them under rocks, on a Saturday of course, because I adhere to planetary magic. And then the crows would come, which again brings back ideas of Odin with ravens and what the connection between that and Christmas carols possibly might be. So I'm sure you could, pray for a less bloody path towards Saturnine devotion, but at the same time, blood talks and shit walks. So either way, you need to sacrifice something. In tradition of Odin worship, it's yourself. It's his eye or your finger or your perception, your current ego, in exchange for hidden knowledge, for a change in perspective, for things that you can't attain without giving up part of yourself. So your willingness to endure pain, not only pain, but to see the threshold of where your pain begins, and walking right over that threshold without hesitation. That's what, that boldness and that fearlessness is what the gods, particularly Odin or Saturn, that's what is required of you. That's what they'll look for in a devotee. So I think whether you intend to do that or not, whether you tend to be as devoted as I am, or whether you're making films which are rituals, I think either way, it really comes back to Odin sacrificing himself, tearing out one eye and looking into the abyss. So this isn't an act of self-destruction, even though, cutting yourself, cutting other people, and drinking blood is usually seen as negative. In a lot of spiritual paths, that's a prerequisite. I don't think that's destructive. I think that's giving something up to gain something else. And especially, like I said, real shit costs real pain in the spiritual plane. There's no way around that. That's not something that you can tiptoe around. I'm not saying you have to film it, but if you do, this is what happened. This DVD is exactly the culmination of those efforts. So after having, a god has his image watered down into what is essentially a holly jolly Santa Claus type character, I guess I can understand how a deity might respond to sacrifice the good old-fashioned way, cutting off a limb. That goes back to so many different cultures. I can't even go there in this commentary, but I think extreme films like this one are a testament to that it's still alive in the digital age. Nothing's changed. I think also the lens of the camera, like I'm recording right now, you know, it's the same type of quartz that I use during my rituals to channel energy of the spirits. So whether or not you know what you're you tend to do that. I think something's been channeled here. So if anything, filming a bloodletting session or a blood drinking experience, whether that's vampiric or that's extreme acts like cutting your finger off and tasting it, that's solidifying a ritual experience. It's a very primitive ritual experience, but brought into the 21st century, which, you know, the fact that White Gardenia has also heard a sound during the last scene, the finger scene, heard a sound like Christmas carols, which seemed really interesting to me because during my vision, I heard something, it sounded like jingle bells. Didn't sound like Christmas carols, but those are pretty significant either way. So that was pretty weird. It was pretty loud. Most spirits, when they come through the veil, they make a noise. It's not always jingle bells. Sometimes it sounds like a hiss or like a metallic, like an insect swarm. You'd know it if you heard it. Either way. So, you know, gives you a minute to prepare yourself. It knows that you've announced something. You've summoned something. That's the announcement that something is coming back through. And ultimately what I'm saying here is that I think this film is a combination of multiple rituals. And I, as an artist and an occultist, recognize those when I watch them, and it made me feel strange. I don't usually react to films I'm not squeamish with blood, but when I saw that film, I happened to be fasting. I think I was doing a week fast. And it was like all of the blood in my body left. It like drained out. I felt like I was going to pass out. And like I said, I've never felt that with a film before. It wasn't necessarily the blood that was getting to me because, that, like I said, I don't usually have those reactions to my own blood or anyone else's. So yeah, something's in this film. Probably my work with the filmmaker is probably not just a coincidence. I think spiritually the forces I work with, they tend to lead me and other people together. And it usually seems really strange because you're like, why are you having the exact same experiences? Why are you researching the same thing? Like the filmmaker was researching link between Santa Claus and Odin for another film. And that was exactly what I happened to be researching at that exact time. I think that's all synchronicity caused by the film itself. And so the film is alive to a fair extent. I think something's been channeled here, and I hope you enjoy this footage because it has spiritual significance as well as artistic. It is horror, but at the same time, that's pretty much the norm in my spiritual path. To each his own, I guess. Extreme art, borders a bit on reality because in the end, these things really happened. And I think that's it. I think that's what magic is. That's what ritual is designed to do. It's designed to change reality and to contact forces that are outside the normal, everyday, mundane experience. And that's what this film does. Quite successfully, I would say. Thank you.